Hey everybody, we have given you a little bit of taste of what this is all about, a little pregame, so to speak. But now, right now, episode 1 of the Meelypod podcast. Hi everybody, I am Jeff Cardozo. He will be the star. Jameel of Meelypop Shop, and of course the Meelypod pod, and this will be a lot of fun, a lot of different things through the hobby discussion, a lot of swag that we will show you about, and certainly over the hour or so that you will learn many things. So let's learn about what you've been doing lately. What's up?
I mean, it's episode 1, baby. I'm ready to go. This is going to be a lot of fun. We've been planning this for a while, and now we're finally hit the ground running. You got episode 0, which is kind of like the warm-up for it. But we have our first guest today. We have Steve Spurrier. We're in Spurrier's Gridiron Grille, so how fitting is it for our inaugural episode to have the HBC here? And we're going to talk a lot about his cards we got on the table. We got a lot of things coming up with that. But life has been crazy. I just got back from a personal vacation. Then we wound up going to Orlando for the Orlando Collecticon, which was a massive success. That's more of a TCG-based kind of platform. But we did sell a lot of sports cards there as well. Had a lot of sports cards interest. And then now I'm going to Indianapolis on Thursday for the Midwest Monster Show. Going up there to vend and trade and buy and sell and all that. And then we're getting ready for the National, which comes around in July. So a lot of things happen this summer.
Yeah, never ends, man.
How about you, man? Though let's talk about the Gators for a second. It's been crazy the last couple days.
Yeah, there was a few weeks of concern whether or not the Gator baseball team would even sniff in. But I think when it's all said and done, you look at the number 1 strength of schedule in the country, all the tough competition they played in the SEC, and ended up being a no-brainer. But you got to give Kevin O'Sullivan and the rest of that coaching staff a lot of credit. They had to win 2 out of 3, basically to stay a game above 500 to finish up the regular season in Athens. Didn't necessarily need to do much damage in the SEC tournament. I thought it was good. They went out in the first day, but then I allowed them to rest. 10 days off, which I didn't know what to do with myself. I'm so used to calling baseball, but now I'll be busy for an even longer time. Regional play, they go on the road. Sully had only won 1 game in his Gator career on the road in regional play, and all they did was then go out and win a whole bunch to beat Oklahoma State, and not only knock them out, but knock the 2-seed Nebraska out. Yeah. So it was a fun few days in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Yeah, you still look good though. I mean, you didn't age too much. You're looking good. You're looking good.
It wasn't too bad. And really cool because Gator softball team was about an hour south in Oklahoma City. Yeah. The unfortunate part was they were playing when Gator baseball was playing, so you never got to go down and sneak. But
breaking the 20 game streak that Oklahoma had in the NCAA tournament.
It was the longest ever.
Yeah, College World Series. But that was awesome. So gotta keep it going.
Yes. All right. So let's get this thing going. Even as I'm afar working, and I know you're doing your thing and going to all these shows, seems like there was some big time things happening out there with some big time names.
Yeah, some big sales. Many of you guys know, we're gonna have this segment kind of every week where we'll just kind of let you guys know what's going on in the initial segment of our podcast, just to give you guys a rundown of hobby news, hobby releases, which I'll talk about stuff that's coming out. And I think that's good to kind of know the shop perspective of what I'm looking at weekly. But the one big thing that everybody was talking about was a Michael Jordan 2003-2004 1-of-1 game used autograph logo man sold this weekend, and it sold for $2.9 million. For a card that came out in 2003. Yeah, for a card that came out in 2003. And so it was the eBay Golden. So Golden has been acquired by eBay, and so it's this massive entity now, and I think a lot more eyes got onto it. But I think 2 guys with a lot of money just probably got in a bidding war. But $2.9 million for a card that is a modern card, not even 20 years old. It is iconic. There's a lot of story behind it, but massive sale. And to think that we're seeing cards, we're being told it's a recession, right, by a lot of people, but to see these kinds of things happening. Also announced this past, I think it was about 7-8 days ago, Heritage Auctions now has acquired, this is really cool, the Call Your Shot Babe Ruth game used jersey.
No way.
Yeah, and they're going to put it up for auction to sell. And the expectations are that it will be well into the multi-figure millions. So it'll be a very, very unique game use piece that we'll see. And so, that's got to be like the ultimate man cave. Yeah. I mean, like, imagine if you had that in the house. Oh, my
goodness. So one of the most iconic moments that I think anybody even knows about, even if you're not a sports fan, you've seen the movie or heard about it, and you say he points the 2 fingers and calling the shot to be able to do that.
Yeah. What he had on, the garb he had on when he did it.
So that's going to be like that heavy material from old school back then. Still don't know how those dudes even played in jerseys like that.
We have some hats in our shop that were like replicas of old hats, and they're like the scratchiest, most irritative. Like when you put them on your head gets all red. I mean, I don't know how they did it, but it was amazing. And I think what Ruth did back in the day, you know. So a lot of news in baseball too, with just the record books changing and and getting all the Negro League statistics involved. So there's a lot of things happening in baseball. We'll talk about more of that too as the episode goes on.
And game used is such a big deal now. I think, you know, even when you look at some of the balls now, they'll put stickers on them so they know that's a legit ball that was hit during games and things like that. But I think I even went to a Braves game a couple of weeks ago when we were up there in Athens, and you walk in the gift shop and, you know, they are selling the jerseys, and it's $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for sometimes even random players. But I guess to smell the sweat from somebody that was out there, it's a pretty cool thing.
I mean, that's the world we live in now. Game used memorabilia has just increased over the past 5-10 years. If you look at just auction sales, I mean, the truth is, the card companies need it because they have to cut them up and put them in cards, and then the collectors want them and they just store them away and they don't put them, don't sell them. So there's a finite amount of these kind of game use items. Whereas when cards, I think sometimes the replication and the production of them can be quite a bit. So
Jameel mentioned cards. We've got a couple of Steve Spurrier rookies here, which we will talk to the head ball coach about. So that'll be pretty cool just to actually see a card from, the early 70s.
1972 rookie year, yeah.
And then you're going to have the guy in here that was the picture on those cards. We've got some wax stuffs too. That's still my favorite. There's nothing like grabbing your son or daughter, or just grabbing that box and opening up the packs and just hoping to get that. So what do you got here today?
Yeah, so we're going to do this kind of a weekly segment, just weekly wax. We'll just talk about what's coming out. I think it's important to make sure people in the hobby community know what's coming up. So just so you all know, we got in front of me Obsidian Basketball, 23-24 Obsidian Basketball. Why is this important? Is because they have the black color blast in here. And why is that important? That is the most sought after chase insert that you can possibly have. Black color blast of Wembanyama. I have no idea what it's going for, but the kabooms went for $6,000 to $7,000.
Wow.
We actually pulled one in our shop. So this is a unique product that just is coming out this week. Comes out Wednesday. And then I have this, which I wanted to show you guys really quick. This is a select basketball 23-24 mega box, but you guys might think mega box is retail only, Walmart, Target. No, this is hobby. So now Panini is creating hobby blaster boxes and hobby mega boxes, which will have kind of a higher threshold for hits inside of them. And I think that's going to be a whole new world to the hobby in the sense that there are going to be blasters and megas affordable under $100 that people can buy and hit some huge cards in. So these are the two big releases. I have a couple notes of just some other stuff. Serie A, soccer's coming out from Panini. You got Synergy Hockey, so big name, Connor Bedard. His rookies are in that. Massive name for the Chicago Blackhawks. His cards have been through the roof. So Synergy Hockey, and then, of course, for you Marvel fans out there, Upper Deck Flare Marvel is going to be released on Wednesday, which is another massive release in the non-sports category. So a lot of things coming out. The pipeline, as you guys know, Wax is always coming out on Wednesday. Next week, Series 2 2024 Topps Baseball.
Ooh.
So Series 1 was huge with LA rookies, and Series 2, we'll see who's in that and have some fun talking about Series 2 baseball.
You know, you mentioned soccer, and this makes me feel a little bit old, but when the Gator baseball team played Oklahoma State over the weekend, they had a kid, last name was Meola. So I'm thinking, I'm looking, and I'm like, reading, Dad, Tony Meola, the U.S. soccer goalie for
94
basically my childhood.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I want this guy to do really bad, but that's really cool. I loved your dad.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's neat seeing how now all these, I guess, guys that kind of we grew up with, now they're having sons and daughters, and they're starting to make an impact in the sports world.
It's I mean, everywhere you look, Jackson Holiday, right? With Matt Holiday, I mean, you talk about Meola. Meola was the first goalie in the, he was like the celebrity goalie in the MLS when they started. I remember back in, I think 94 was the World Cup when we did pretty well. Won that first round game. It was held in the United States. 2026, LA, right? I think, or it's in the United States. It's not LA. That's the Olympics. We got the next World Cup coming, and I think it's North America, so it's Mexico, Canada, and America.
And since you did mention Jackson Holiday, I'll make you jealous here for a second.
Let's hear this.
The big Cardinals guy, of course, and go to Oklahoma State again, Stillwater, and guess who was in the stands?
Matt Holliday.
Matt Holliday, because his brother is the head coach.
I love it
for Oklahoma State, and I got to meet their younger son under Jackson, and he's supposed to be a stud too. So look out for the next holiday.
I mean,
of
holidays
cards
are
coming
everywhere.
up.
I mean, it all started with the Cardinals. Is all I got to say. So
that's right.
So anyway,
he was a stud. All right. Well, speaking of studs, that is what Steve Spurrier is. We're going to take a break. We'll come back with the head ball coach himself and get his perspective on what this industry has become here on the Meelypod podcast.
Albert, Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grille's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, and of course our chicken and waffles. Plus, you can enjoy bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
We welcome you back to the Meelypod Hobby Podcast. Jeff, Jameel, and the number one Gator here on our first episode. That is, of course, the head ball coach himself, Steve Spurrier. We are in the Steve Spurrier podcast room, all the elements, all the great accolades. And, Coach, thanks for joining us. I know...
Are you trying to tell me my card rated higher than Tebow's?
I would say so. I would say, and we're excited to have you here, Coach. Thanks for first off being here. This restaurant is now going to have our 3rd year anniversary, is what I heard, coming up in August.
Yeah, we're really proud of the success we've had thus far, and got excellent people that work here. Obviously, good leadership from the top all the way through, sort of like any kind of team, organization, company. So just got to keep it going, and we're proud of what's happened so far.
Well, as part of the shop, as part of the restaurant, I know you got a bunch of cards at the front, so we're going to be talking about some of your cards here in a second. There is so much history with just you and in terms of your NFL career, college career, everything going on with your past and present, but you have 2 iconic rookie cards. And I have in my hands right here, I want to show you them, the 2 PSA 10s. These are very, very rare. There's the image of you, of course, this stoic image of you about to throw, and then we got the action, pro action actually, 1972 Topps punting. So between those 2, Coach, tell me what's your favorite.
I really haven't looked at it as a favorite, but I do like this one punting because
how do you get your light on?
Not that high. But yeah, a lot of people don't know I was a punter, and really, Jeff, I probably stuck with football as a kid in junior high because I was a punter, and I kicked some extra points every now and then, I guess. But my buddies all told me you'll quit football when you get to high school because you're much better in basketball and baseball. I said, well, I can punt, and I'd be the punter up there if nothing else. So I stayed out for football, and then all of a sudden, we started throwing the ball a little bit, and I became a quarterback.
Well, and speaking of throwing, you could obviously throw because of the pitching days.
Yeah, nobody threw the ball in
No.
high school. Yeah. For junior high, we were in the dead team with 2 tight ends, fullback, option play. That was about it.
Well, as I go around the restaurant here, I look at all the great memorabilia and different things, and I read a little bit about it. It's a couple of state championships in baseball?
Baseball, we couldn't lose. I'm telling you, it's amazing. We won just about every 1-run game or 2-run game, and that's how we won 2 state championships, These teams now, and the games are so close, it could go either way, and I looked back and I said, dadgummit, when we were in the state championships, they all went our way. 1-0, 5-4, 8-7s. That's how we won 2 back-to-back state championships.
How many times did you lose?
It was won a total of 4 since the 1920s, I think, almost 100 years. Didn't lose any. Both times we went to the state, won both of them. Now, basketball, we got beat in the finals of the region, did not go to the state, and so we didn't have football playoffs back then. But basketball, we'd lose that 2-point game, but baseball, we always seemed to win the close ones.
So back in the day, did you have some teams that you followed or players that you, I mean, in baseball or not in football, no, baseball, basketball that you were fans of?
In Johnson City, the minor league team there was the Cardinals.
Oh, hey.
We pulled for them a little bit, and my dad did not like the Yankees because they won all the time. So sort of like the New York Giants a little bit, Willie Mays and some of those guys. So but that was about it. Probably the New York Giants and the Cards.
Sure. Did you ever get into trading cards back in the day? Was that something you ever?
And I had a box of cards.
Okay.
And I went off to college and came back, I think, Thanksgiving or something one time. And I asked my mom, where's all those cards I had? I had a Mickey.
Oh, no, don't tell us this.
I had some Willie Mays, Mickey Mantles, and this, that, and the others. And she said, I threw all them.
Oh.
So that was the end of my baseball card.
Was that in the time, too, when people were putting them on their spokes?
It was like, 63, 64, right in there.
Yeah, you probably had some 60s or 50s Mantles. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, you wouldn't believe how many times in the shop we have people come in and tell us these stories of, I had this, that, and the other, and Mom just said, you know what, it's taking up clutter. It's either in the garage sale, it's in the dumpster, or the fireplace.
Yeah.
So when you get to the NFL, obviously you're excited to be playing, but when you saw your first card, or Mom and Dad saw it, what was the reaction? It was like, man, I've actually got a card of my picture on there now.
Really, no reaction. We didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it back in those days, 60s, 70s. It was just something that came out, and I don't know the value back in those days.
Right.
It's the longer you have them, I guess.
Yeah, no, condition and keeping them, without getting destroyed. But back in the day, it was more of a hobby. It was so fun that, the roots of the hobby in general are that we get the chance of nostalgia to see our heroes on these playing cards, just like yourself right there on these ones. So the nostalgic now is people are grading them, seeing them as investments, things like that. I wanted to, as we're talking about this, have you ever seen this card? This is the 1972 rookie year Sunoco stamp. So that's another card that you have that's from 1970, what they consider as rookie year. And I always wonder if you got another kicking card. Most people will know, out of his 3 rookie cards, you got 2 that are kicking. So that's a pretty unique thing. And I just like this one because it's got the we'll get it imposed on the screen so people can see. It's got the ball right there about to be punted. That one's already after punting, but good shot there, I think, for you.
Yeah, actually, in 65, one of our programs here in Florida was a picture of me punting against Mississippi State. So I've got that picture. Very similar to the one you just said right there.
Yeah.
Finger always stays. It makes it consistent.
Was a punter. That's how it probably stuck with football.
So let's take a couple more of these. So we got this is the 1987 Duke Police. So this card was given out literally by the police in sheets to people. That's one of a very unique card because there's not a lot of them. I always wonder if you remember any of these cards. You remember taking that picture that day or even getting one of those cards?
I've seen that picture a few times.
And then there's the this one, I think, 1973 tops. That's got the helmet on. Got the ball. Yeah.
I think a year I got hurt in a dang preseason game. This about the whole year.
Yo.
Yeah, no, that's always tough. And it's always tough to probably get a card with your autograph on it. We've got a bottle of Buffalo Trace here, big events you guys are doing that are signed, and only a few tickets left actually for that.
Yeah.
So if you want to look into that, to do that. Did you ever practice your autograph when you were a little kid, hoping to make it someday, or it just kind of evolved into something when you started doing it?
It probably changed a little bit to where I could do it a little faster, but hopefully people can see it's my autograph. I know Arnold Palmer used to tell everybody, do your autograph so people can read it.
Yeah.
So hopefully mine is somewhat easy to read.
And Jameel, does that make a difference in the industry? I know certainly signatures change over the years, but can you tell that it was a early Steve Spurrier compared to then a late Steve Spurrier as you start to analyze these things?
So we could even, we'll talk about the story about your Heisman ticket, because that's a very different autograph back in your college days than this autograph. But the nice thing about what you've done, and I've noticed in all of your autograph signings, is you're very consistent. Whereas a lot of people now, a lot of the younger athletes and stuff are doing slop signatures where they'll shorthand their signature or they'll just give a very poor signature. Whereas you, and again, you talked about Arnold Palmer, people of class that I've just seen over the years, they've been consistent, they make sense, they look the same, and they're hard to replicate. So kudos to what you've done with your autograph, because there's some people who haven't done that. So,
and do you enjoy that? You like still mingling with the fans? I know I've been in this restaurant so many times where you blow the whistle and you hold court, so to speak, and get to talk and take pictures. That's still a lot of fun, isn't it?
Yeah. It's what we do here, and a lot of people are very appreciative to get a picture and so forth. So we still got a lot of fans, even fans from the other schools like to get a picture. So that is rewarding.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Yeah. We just opened another shop, Meelypop shop in South Carolina, in Spartanburg, which, as you know, is very close to Columbia. And so we have people coming in the shop up there. And it's so funny because, down here I got all the Gator requests. So up there I got all the Spurrier, South Carolina requests up there. So you are your autograph is quite an array. There's a lot of them out there from a lot of different places, which is also, I love to see that you got the HBC on all these different kinds of cards, all this different type of memorabilia, which makes it, I think, more marketable. I don't know if you know, but since the restaurant's opened, your rookie cards, your autograph cards have actually increased in value. So why do you think that's happened?
Just probably the billboards going up down the interstate. I saw a few of them the other day. Freddie Weeby had all those put up and so forth. I think there's some on 95 also near Jacksonville. So in the restaurant's got my name out there a lot.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a lot about, in this podcast for everybody out there, maybe getting stuff on things unique, where it's not just a card or a photo or a ball. Do you remember like a really random thing that you had to sign and you kind of looked at it and was like, whoa, why am I signing this? Or anything awkward like that?
Oh, some golf bags. People might want to sign that, but most of it's a hat or a picture or something. Yeah, every now and then, maybe a sleeve or something like that. Not
Speaking of golf, I bet you can still golf, right?
no, like I used to.
No.
If not even close. So, but I'm not giving it up.
You're still
I got to believe, get back to my original form of 10, 12 years ago.
shoot the age. Is that a goal?
Yeah, not plenty. No, not plenty though. But I have, I think, twice. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just thinking about all the different things that you've signed. Is there an item that you've enjoyed signing? Like, I'm sure the visor is one of the. I mean, I know they sell them here at the restaurant, but is there an item that you enjoy signing the most? Is it a pigskin? Is there something you look at and you're like, I like signing this? That it's easier to sign than maybe say a card, which is very finite.
Matter.
Yeah.
These were actually pretty easy to sign.
Yeah.
These bourbon bottles.
Yeah.
We had a little spot there, and so forth. But no, they're all pretty easy to sign. But I like to get them, so I don't mess it up too much. I like
Consistency. There you go.
And
Yeah.
Jameel, you mentioned I still want to hear the story about this. Heisman ticket. Are things valued more if he were to write Heisman winner or NFL or just the different, I guess, things as a part of the signature?
I think Coach knows, right? 1966 is a big inscription that I think a lot of people want. Makes it more desirable. Heisman winner. Again, if it's a 49ers card versus a Gators card versus Carolina, so go Gators, go Gamecocks, go Niners. Those kind of inscriptions help, of course, the value. And most people know in the world of autographs, if you ask for that, it's usually more money when you do that with a signing. So yeah, anytime you can make something more unique. And Coach, I know you're a very unique individual in general. It always helps. I think when we had done a signing, you signed some Gator mentality and HBC and different things where fans just adored that, right? They got a chance to get something that's very, very unique. Do you mind if I share the story about your Heisman ticket that's over there in the? Do you remember coming into the shop with that ticket?
Yeah. About 7 years ago.
It was a while ago, yeah, before the restaurant. So Freddie had said, Coach is going to bring in some stuff. You mind taking a look at it? So you had this, I think it was a Publix bag, and you had some coins in it. You had it was a bunch of stuff. I'll tell you what. You had coins, you had also, anywhere we're looking through little things, and you're asking me, is that worth anything? What's that worth? What's that worth? So we're going through some old cards I think you had in there. And then on the bottom of the bag was this Heisman ticket, and I thought it was a replica for sure. I was like, what is this? So I said, Coach, what's this? He goes, oh, that's my ticket from back in the day. I said, this is your Heisman ticket? He goes, yeah, look, and the perforation was still on there, so it was undetached. I said, this is your ticket, isn't it? So we flip it over, and on the back of that ticket, right, you had signed it, Steve Spurrier, and I think you said to me, I'm not sure why I signed it, but I signed it, and it's a very different signature than what you do now, which was cool to see. So here at the restaurant, not only can you get great food, can you potentially meet Coach? They have a museum, I call it. It's more of this beautiful shadow box over there with jersey. You got all the sorts of stuff in there, and he actually has a PSA authenticated his original Heisman ticket with his signature on that as well displayed. So that was the one thing out of the bag. I said, Coach, we gotta take care of this. This is some history right here. But I'm glad it made its way over there to the showcase.
We got a lot of stuff in here, and have we run out of room? I guess I got a bunch of other stuff back at the house. But people that like that type of stuff, they see a lot here.
And the visor wall is amazing.
Yeah.
What made you save those visors after all the years?
Always saved them when I went to a really good golf course and around the country and so forth. So that was just some memorabilia for me. And then, of course, when we did the restaurant, and Visors is the upstairs outdoor restaurant, bar, and so forth. Freddie Whibby, I said we wanted to call it Visors. And so it is a neat name. And, it's pretty neat watching all the coaches wear visors nowadays. People ask me, why'd you start doing that? And I said, because back in 90, nobody else was. So if you want to be successful in life, you're supposed to do things a little different from nobody else. So I said, that's another way I can be a little different than all the other coaches.
Well, and what's different about you than many people across the entire country is just all the accolades, the awards, and different things. I know this is another big week, getting a big honor down there in Tampa. I know Thad O'Neill, you're one of your former players, getting inducted as well. Former Gator Aaron Andrews will be there as well. Classmate of mine. But when you look at all this stuff, how fun is it to get to those events? And I know you love going back to the Heisman presentation every year. It means something special.
Yeah, very fortunate, very blessed to be around a lot of good people, and just take it in stride and try to give credit to people that gave me the opportunity to be a coach. I have to tell people all the time that I was very blessed and fortunate to even get the job at Florida, because at Duke that year we were 1-3, and we had a huge upset over Clemson, and we did some things in that game that made us realize, hey, we're pretty good if we do it week after week after week, and we won the ACC, and so I got the job at Florida. If not, if we go 5-6 that year or 6-5, I probably would have never been hired, because I didn't go to Alabama and I never worked for Nick Saban. So it's hard to get a job unless you do that. So I came from Duke.
And think about this, Gator fans especially, but just fans in general. And Florida's won 9 SEC championships. I'm going to say 7 for you, even though they may not want to say it, but you won 7. So think about that. The only other 2, Urban Meyer, and I know he's certainly a guy that maybe can get in the Ring of Honor someday, but just to do that and the greatness of, that was my heyday, Jameel. I was a student there in the mid-'90s, and Florida never lost at home, it seemed like.
Well, we lost a few.
Yeah, but
we were 68-5, I think.
I mean, just think about that record. This day and age. I mean, it's amazing. I just had someone hand deliver us your ticket here. There it is. So take a look at that. On the back of it, take a look at that signature. We're talking about signatures here, and we'll get it put up on the screen. But that, you put a full Steven.
Yeah, I don't usually do a Steven, but that is my autograph back then.
Any good memories just thinking about this ticket and being at that ceremony in '66?
Not really, but I did save things. I'm a saver of things. Baseballs, I got a bunch of baseballs in there, and got some more even at home. Since I was a pitcher, when you win, you put it in your glove, walk off. It's pretty easy to have the game ball when you're the pitcher. So anyway.
Well, so good at baseball, at basketball, and it ended up settling on football. And I think so many people are grateful for everything that you've been able to do, Coach. And I know so many people smile when they get to meet you and say, "Hey."
I tell you what, yesterday might have been the best one day of baseball, women's softball in the history of our school, because both had big wins, and I'm ready to go watch our ladies beat Oklahoma again.
Let's do it.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, it was. I got in at 2 a.m. last night from Stillwater after broadcasting those games. But yeah, a lot of fun. I know now as the ambassador too, you're into everything. But I mean, maybe Jerry's even into it more with gymnastics and everybody else. And speaking of Jerry, if you come to this restaurant, you got to get the cookie.
Jerry's cookie.
I mean, that's what it's all about. Are there any cool things maybe we could get Jerry's cookie on a card, since Coach has some cards?
So Coach, there's a set that Topps makes now called Allen and Ginter. And what they do is they don't just put baseball cards in it. They put kind of Americana stuff in it. And they have these subsets. And I remember like a couple of years ago, they had one on foods. So my vote is that we get Jerry's Cookies on a Topps Allen and Ginter card so that we can get her in the limelight a little bit as well for her amazing skills and her repertoire. So we'll have to petition Topps for that. If you're listening, Topps, pay attention.
Do it. You guys do it.
All right, Coach, thank you so much for joining us here on our first Meelypod Hobby Podcast by the First Gator. We'll always call him that.
If you guys. All right, man.
Back with more right after this.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life. And the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
This is Jameel, owner of the Meelypops shop, Gainesville's home for collectibles of all sorts, including every single type of sports cards, whether it be Panini, Topps, Leaf, Upper Deck. We have it. Come on in, get yourself a box, a pack, get yourself some supplies, get into our breaks, get your Pokemon, get your Yu-Gi-Oh! All the other different kinds of TCG products that we carry and shop are always fully in stock. You can find our stuff on our website as well, meelypops.com. That's another way you can interact with the store, or you can just come into the shop. We're located off 39th Avenue by I-75 behind Walgreens and Sonny's. Stop on by. We're open every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you can check us out on our social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, whatnot, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We'd love to see you. Come on out to the shop, have some fun, be a part of the card community here in Gainesville, and always go Gators.
Well, how cool was that?
Yeah.
We are in the Steve Spurrier podcast room, Jeff Cardozo and Jameel. It is the Meelypod Hobby Podcast, our first episode, and this is a first for us. We're going to actually do something really cool. Jameel has found a 1991 Heisman set.
Yeah, Series 1, the Heisman sets, and Coach is in there, as you can see. Ooh, let me get the glare. There you go. He's got a great, he's like, I would call it a mean mug. He's almost grilling in this card. So we're going to actually get him to sign it, and this is going to be our first giveaway. So this will be our June giveaway. We're going to give away this card signed as well as the rest of the set. So if you want to go hunt down some more of the Heisman guys, you can get the autographs to complete it. And we're going to give it away simply. All you got to do is comment on our Facebook or comment on our YouTube on this episode 1, what you like about the podcast, what you think about the podcast, and then we're going to randomize all those names and give this away. So that'll be our June giveaway. The head ball coach, Steve Spurrier, in his restaurant. You'll get the card from our first podcast, and we will give that away. So make sure you comment, subscribe to those channels as well, and of course you can find our podcast on Amazon, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Spotify. They're everywhere. So anywhere you get your anywhere you get your podcast, find it, but we are the only hobby podcast that you need. So
yes, that we are. All right, so now we've seen all these cards. We've talked to Coach about them. Now the question is, you've got these in these just beautiful cases. Obviously, they're labeled Gem 10 Mint, and they get the 4 and all this other stuff. That, of course, is not in a case. For everybody out there that doesn't really understand it, what is the importance of that Gem Mint 10? Like, why do you want to, when you get a good card, immediately put it in one of those sleeves?
So grading has become the way to, I think, catalog rarity, right? So in front of us here, we have 2 PSA 10 rookie cards of Spurrier that we talked about. And each one of these are perfect in PSA's determination, their opinion of what a card should be. Mint corners, all the corners are sharp. The card is centered, so it was cut perfectly, so the borders match up. And again, on both these cards, it's very easy to tell borders. The surface of the card, so the front and the back surface of the card is clean, no imperfection, no indent, no waxiness, no staining, none of that stuff, which you can see in a lot of vintage cards. And then lastly, their last criteria is the edges. So the edges are nice and sharp and clean. They're not chipped or indented or curled or things like that. So all of those factors go into grading it. And these 2 cards, I don't think we really mentioned this, but the Pro Action is a Pop 8 and the base card is a Pop 7. So what does that mean? That means that out of the entire print run of all of the Spurrier graded cards, and I have the stats here for you guys, let me just give it to you. The 1972 Topps, there has been 704 of those cards actually graded by PSA. 7 of them got 10s. 77 of them have 9s, and then it goes down from there. So that shows you that this is a Pop 7. This is a very rare card. There's only 6 others of these in a 10 grade. On top of that, the Pro Action, there is 573 of these cards graded in the total population, and there are 88 9s and only 8 10s. So again, you have a card that's Pop 7, Pop 8. These are his quintessential rookie cards. And so if you have stuff like that, even, and again, don't be wrong, I'm talking about the 10s, a grade 7, a grade 8, a grade 9, all those grades are really good on these cards. Yeah. They substantiate the value, they give an objective number, and people can then go look it up, and if they want to resell it, or as I like to tell a lot of customers, what are your plans? If they're to pass them down to their kids or their grandkids, you've now given them something that's a tangible asset with a PSA serial number that's got an objective value, right? I mean, it's a great way to encapsulate your cards. And we're going to have different graders. We're not biased to just PSA. PSA kind of is controlling the market right now with the amount that they're grading every month, and we'll share some of those stats in the future. But SGC, another very big grader here in our state. Beckett, a huge grader. CGC. There's a ton of different grading companies out there, and so learning which ones to grade with, and that's kind of like hanging out in the hobby shop, right? You learn who to grade with, what to grade with, what card where should I send it, how much should I spend on grading, and those kind of elements are key. So hopefully that kind of answers, people's questions out there when they think about these cards. Now, we have a 10 and a 4 here, which is interesting. So here's the 10 and here's the 4. We'll put the images up, but the 4, and I was looking at this earlier, I was like, why is this 4? Well, it's off-centered. The corners are dinged. The nice thing about this card is there's no crease in the card. So having a card that has a crease in it somewhere will probably bring it down to like a 3, 2, or maybe even a 1, depending on how bad the crease is. And I'm looking at this card. It's got some surface imperfections that I can see. So you can see why it got a 4. It is tough to get a 10, but again, the higher the grade, the better the value.
So there is some things that you, as a person that buys a box of cards, really can't control. It's not your fault if they cut it bad, but what are some of the things then you want somebody to do if they want to get it graded, or what they, I guess, when they look at it themselves from just a random person that doesn't know the business, and what can they do to kind of secure it and make it more value?
Well, I think they call them penny sleeves for a reason. They're about a penny. You usually can get a pack of penny sleeves for a couple bucks. You always put a card in a penny sleeve, number one, because now you're not messing the surface. You can't really screw up the edges and corners unless you drop the card or something. And then people will put them in a top loader, or I call them hard cases. That's kind of the old way of talking about it. Put them in a hard case, and that preserves those cards from damage and imperfection. So I always encourage people, the cards that are valuable, the rookie cards, when you've busted Bowman boxes, I'm like, put the Wyatts in hard cases. Sleeve the Bowman Chrome firsts, because those can scratch if they're rubbing up against each other. Lots of little intricacies. So I think that's the first step. So whether you're a kid or you're an old kid, right? You got to sleeve and top load your cards. And then the second thing is, if you want to grade them, not every card is going to be a 10. So if you look at a card and you're like, oh, look, this looks perfect, there's a lot of elements to that. So learning how to grade, and we'll get into some of those intricacies too in the podcast, and tips and tricks that I've learned over the years that I want to share with you all. But grading is not, I get a lot of people coming who think their cards are all 10s, right? So that's a whole other science as well. But there's fees associated with that, so you have to think about those kind of elements. And PSA is the one company, I don't know if you know, Jeff, but if a card gets a 10 and you submitted it at a lower level, they have the right to what they call as an upcharge. So they can upcharge you to the grading fee that they believe it should have been submitted at.
Okay.
So it's a good thing to get upcharged, because it means your card got a high grade.
Sure.
But it also kind of stinks for some people, because the other grading companies are flatline fixed fees. So.
All right. Another thing I think is really interesting, and now as everybody's watching Major League Baseball this summer, and we're getting ready for the new NFL to start, and you got all these rookies and stuff coming in.
College football.
Yeah, it's crazy on what the industry has become. But I wonder, you mentioned Wyatt, and Wyatt Langford, by the way, for those that don't know, probably the hottest card when it first came out, but then he gets hurt.
Yeah.
And does that then make it go down? Like, as you're trying to sit there, is it really fluid? Like, hey, 1 week it's this, the next week it's that, because he's back up or he's down. Yeah. And then even as a part of that, what about Ronald Acuna? I'm a Braves guy, so I've got some Acuna rookies and I'm excited, but then he tears a second ACL. Are people freaking out that, oh my gosh, he may not play for another 10 years?
Yep. It's interesting you brought him up, because I'll answer Acuna first. I actually went back and looked at his PSA 10s recently of his Bowman Chrome first. So I like, whenever someone gets hurt, a good thing to do is try and look at a very liquid, high-graded population. Like you have the Luka Silver, right? The PSA 10. It's another Luka base card. Not the Silver's like a $3,000 card. But the PSA 10 Luka, like that card, is a very liquid. There's a ton of them graded, and a lot of people know what the card is. So I think that gives a good indication of where the value is. So first step is identify a card, and then go back and look at the track record. So in April, I think it's when baseball started, right? April.
Yep.
Acuna's first Chrome, Bowman Chrome, I think it's 2016 with the first insignia on it. PSA 10 was doing like 85 to 95. He got hurt recently, last 3 weeks. I saw the record low for that card at $40, one recently sold, and they're trending about more $50 to $55. So just that type of injury, because people now know the rest of his season is done.
Yep.
And his card actually might dip even farther down as it becomes less relevant into the baseball season, right? I mean, he's not going to help the Braves.
He's not going to win the MVP again.
He ain't going to win an MVP, hitting home runs, and he's not going to have his chains and his swag that he has. And we don't have that right now with Acuna. So honestly, it's a good time in my mind, if you believe in Acuna, to buy. Always buying at the dip on those kinds of things. Now, will his prices go back up? This is a second torn ACL, right? We're looking at a guy who is he's kind of reckless in a way. Like he's a gamer, right? He loves the game of baseball. And I think a lot of people are starting to weigh that in. Maybe his value long-term now is going to drop. Maybe people are looking at kind of his long-term health and thinking, I don't know if this is something I want to invest in. If that happens, then we're going to see some of his big high-end stuff drop as well.
Is it even to the point of Jackson Holliday comes up, and that was, again, a hot rookie. He comes up, he's not good in the big leagues, and all of a sudden he's back down again. Can it move that quickly just by a couple of bad weeks?
Yeah, so Jackson Holliday had a huge drop-off this year. Very big drop. I didn't do my stats on it, but massive drop-off. And you brought up Wyatt earlier. Wyatt, I was telling a lot of Gator fans in town, I said, be careful buying tons and tons of Wyatt right now because he's so hot.
Yeah.
He hasn't played a game yet. And we're looking at this guy like the next Mike Trout, right? Mm-hmm. So this is what happens: is the hype builds into the pricing of a structure of a card. And unfortunately, Wyatt got hurt. His cards have dipped by about 30% in that time. So that investment people made right before season at the peak is now really far back to, for him to get back up to that value again is going to be tricky. So I encourage people, and we'll talk a lot about this in the podcast. So for you investment types, for you people who enjoy holding cards long term, we're going to talk a lot about just kind of when to buy, when not to buy, how to trade, how to grade, what grades to buy, what grades not to buy, what grades have, some wiggle room in them. I think there's a lot of stuff there that no one in the hobby world is really talking about because a lot of people, unfortunately, this is the way it is. They're greedy and they're selfish. They don't want to tell you their secrets. Well, Jeff and I want to get the can of worms out on this stuff. We want to bring that out. So we're going to give some of those tricks.
Yeah, help and love everybody, and make sure that you're taken care of. And speaking of that, you mentioned the swag of Acuna and the chains and all these other things. And we were in Missouri this year, which is sort of close to St. Louis. So I went into a place, and I know, like, you always look good, but like, thanks, hats Jeff. And stuff are unique and rare.
Oof.
So I found a couple of
what are these?
Like, just
sick. Look at this one. We got the Redbird, established 1892 St. Louis Cardinals. Check this bad boy out. I might have to I don't know which one to put on. This one's even. Look at this one. This has got it's like a navy blue with the dark red and the red bill.
Yeah.
Which one do you want me to put? I'm going to try the gray today. I like the gray. They're both sick. All right, we're set. Let me get this squared away.
Now, see, are you a flat bill guy? You going to keep it that way, or you always bend it a little bit?
So I think it's kind of out of. From what I've heard from the youngins that work in the shop, the flat bill is kind of out of style.
Okay.
Now. So you got to bend it a little bit. Do you remember when people used to keep the stickers on?
Oh yeah.
That was big. I think that's gone away too. So, good. But now I've got two dope hats to wear, so I'm going to try and cycle these into the rotation.
Perfect.
So since you're giving me something, I brought you something. This will be our inaugural trade. This will be something for your PC. I got a card that I don't know if you even know exists right here.
Okay.
So we're going to do a little trade here. Jeff brought me some hats. I brought him this. Let's see what he thinks about it. You have to flip it over here. Flip it over. There you go.
Oh, no way. Salma Hayek, autographed. I love me some Salma Hayek.
Jeff loves Selma.
She was the dream back in the day. And so that is amazing.
Now you got she had her first autographs, I think, come out in this Leaf product, and I was like, I got to get one for Jeff.
That is the coolest thing ever.
So now you can add it to your PC. I think it's numbered too, right?
Yep. 7 of 7.
7 of 7.
There's
only
7 of these in the world?
Yeah. That's it. And now you got one of them.
Holy cow.
And you got what they would call the bookend, so the last of the print run. So people sometimes find that more collectible than like 4 or 7 or something.
Oh, yeah, that might make sense.
So,
it's the same number.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, look at that, man. Hats in Selma.
That is really cool.
Thanks, man. I love the gift. So there's our first inaugural trade on the podcast. We'll probably do some more of these in the future. But I'm looking forward to this. I think this podcast has a lot of room to grow. We're going to be bringing on lots of different guests next week. For our next week's podcast, I have one of my close friends in the hobby who is probably one of the best card shops in the nation and who is probably one of the biggest Michael Jordan collectors, Andy from Indie Card Exchange. So make sure you tune in next week. He and I are going to be talking, and all of us will be talking about just the hobby in general. I want to share a little bit about his shop and how it's grown immensely. He has a kids club in his shop with hundreds of kids that come to his. It's amazing what he's done. So we'll have him on next week, and then we got some other guests lined up coming up that we'll share each week. So make sure you're tuning in. Make sure you're subscribing. Turn the notifications on all the different platforms that you listen to, and we'll bring you some good content.
Yeah, we'll have a bunch of professional athletes kind of telling you their story, like Coach Spurrier did, and getting that first card. He made it seem modest, but I could tell you if I'm shifting through and all of a sudden like I've got a baseball card, like that was a dream from 5 years old. So I think there's probably some really cool, unique stories when it comes to all of that stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna get to see, I think, a lot of a younger generation. I know, talk about head coach, like he may not be a collector, but he's an appreciation for the hobby. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of young people now. I just brought up Mike Trout earlier. He's one of the biggest collectors. You know what I mean? There's a massive amount of current celebrities and players who are very much in the hobby. We have clients who break with us, who ask us to buy cards for them. So there's that world is. Hopefully, we're going to lift the lid on that a little bit and bring people on so you guys can get to see them.
Yeah, pretty special stuff. Well, this was episode 1. Hopefully, there will be 1,000,001 when it's all said and done. But I encourage you to share with your friends. And again, that's what we'll do. We'll make sure that you understand what this industry is all about. There's so many different things. Jameel's constantly traveling the United States and I guess even the world, trying to find the best of the best and doing some of these things. But I mean, I haven't been in forever, but I'm sure just walking into what you're going to walk into here pretty soon in one of these national card shows, it's got to be overwhelming and just how big this has gotten.
It is very taxing week. I'll say that. It's a week-long convention. So our kind of road to the national begins now. We prep really for the next 2 months. Promo. Andy, who we'll have on next week, he's actually we're going to be partnered in our booths together, which would be cool to market it together as well. But we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people descending upon these centers. Last year it was in Chicago at Rosemont, and this year it's at the IX Center in Cleveland. And there are just everything you can think of when it comes to collectibles. You will see from the 10-cent boxes to the $1 million cards, right? And it's everything in between. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got to get you out to one of them eventually, too.
It'll be pretty special. So because of all that, you need to watch and listen to this so we can tell you all the ins and outs of how to make successful and really how to make yourself swagalicious like Jameel now.
Thanks,
or even just finding something, that perfect thing for that man cave.
Yeah.
Which is always something really, really cool.
Like a Selma Hayek stuff autograph card.
That's going on the nightstand
there you go.
by the bed. So you can see it every single night. Well, you can see us all over the place, so make sure you check us out. Appreciate you tuning into this one. For Jameel, I am Jeff. That was the Meelypod Hobby Podcast, episode 1.